Lost in Space sold audiences the fantasy of the perfect family surviving the unknown. Behind the smiles, fame faded, minds fractured, and some lives ended far from home. Decades later, their real stories are more shocking than anything the robots ever warned us about. Guy Williams as Professor John Robinson. Guy Williams was born on January 14, 1924, in New York City, United States. He was 41 years old when he took on the role of Professor John Robinson in Lost in Space, portraying the calm, intelligent patriarch and moral center of the Robinson family. Williams made a radical decision few leading men dared to take. He walked away. In the early 1970s, he relocated to Argentina, where he found renewed admiration and a slower, quieter life. Guy Williams died on April 30, 1989, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at the age of 65. He succumbed to a ruptured cerebral aneurysm and was found alone in his apartment days later. June Lockhart as Maureen Robinson. June Lockhart, born on June 25, 1925, in New York City, United States. She was 40 years old when she stepped into Lost in Space as Maureen Robinson, the calm, intelligent matriarch who represented reason, compassion. While Lost in Space transformed into nostalgic memory, Lockhart continued appearing steadily in television, animation, and voice work, outliving nearly everyone associated with the golden age she came from. June Lockhart turned 100 years old on June 25, 2025, a milestone almost unheard of in Hollywood history. She passed away peacefully from natural causes at her home in Santa Monica, California, on October 23, 2025, at the age of 100. Jonathan Harris as Dr. Zachary Smith. Jonathan Harris, born November 6, 1914, in the Bronx, New York City. He was 50 years old when he stepped into Lost in Space as Dr. Zachary Smith, a saboteur whose cowardice and theatrical venom would soon overpower the series itself. Harris spoke openly of frustration at being denied serious dramatic opportunities, watching an industry celebrate the character while ignoring the craft that created it. Years later, after being hospitalized for a back injury, his body betrayed him as quietly as his career had been boxed in. Jonathan Harris died on November 3, 2002, from a blood clot, 3 days before his 88th birthday, at the age of 87. Bill Mumy as Will Robinson. Bill Mumy, born on February 1, 1954, in San Gabriel, California. He was just 11 years old when he became Will Robinson in Lost in Space, the boy genius whose intelligence and innocence anchored the show's sense of hope amid danger. Rather than fight Hollywood head-on, Mumy shifted behind the scenes, turning to music, songwriting, and voice work, building a second life where longevity mattered more than spotlight. He found stability in creative control, contributing to animation, composing, and later writing, proving that endurance sometimes requires stepping out of frame rather than chasing it. In 2026, Bill Mumy is 72 years old. He remains active as a musician, writer, and occasional actor, respected less for a single role than for something rarer in Hollywood, surviving early fame without losing himself. Mark Goddard as Major Don West. Mark Goddard was born on July 24, 1936, in Lowell, Massachusetts. He was 29 years old when he stepped into Lost in Space as Major Don West, the confident space pilot whose charm, bravery, and romantic edge made him one of the show's most recognizable faces. In time, he stepped away from Hollywood entirely, turning to education and later becoming a respected special education teacher, choosing purpose over applause. Mark Goddard died from pulmonary fibrosis in Hingham, Massachusetts, on October 10, 2023, at the age of 87. 6. Marta Kristen as Judy Robinson. Born on February 26, 1945 in Oslo, Norway, Marta Kristen was just 20 years old when she appeared in Lost in Space as Judy Robinson, the eldest Robinson daughter whose grace and emotional maturity helped ground the series' science fiction spectacle. Kristen often accepted work that allowed her to stay close to home, including television commercials and selective acting roles, prioritizing stability over ambition while raising her daughter. The decision protected her family life, but it also nudged her further from Hollywood's center, where momentum favors those willing to disappear into the grind. By 2026, at 81 years old, Marta Kristen lives a quiet life out of the public eye, remembered with warmth for Judy Robinson and for choosing balance over relentless fame. Angela Cartwright as Penny Robinson. Angela Cartwright was born September 9, 1952, in Altrincham, Cheshire, England. She was 13 years old when she appeared in Lost in Space as Penny Robinson, the sensitive middle daughter whose curiosity and emotional awareness softened the show's escalating chaos. She stepped away from regular acting, turning to photography, a medium that allowed her to control framing, distance, and truth. Through books, exhibitions, and visual storytelling, she built a second career defined by authorship rather than casting. In 2026, Angela Cartwright is 73 years old. She remains active as a photographer and author. Dick Tufeld, as voice of the robot. Dick Tufeld, born December 11, 1926, in New York City, United States. He was 38 years old when he became the voice of the robot in Lost in Space, delivering the warning that would echo through television history. Danger, Will Robinson. As opportunities narrowed, his legacy crystallized into a single phrase repeated endlessly, detached from the life that created it. The voice survived cultural shifts. The man faded behind it. Dick Tufeld died in 2012 from congestive heart failure at the age of 85. His body failed quietly, but his voice never did, continuing to warn generations about danger long after the actor who spoke the words was gone. Bob May as the robot. Bob May was born on September 4, 1939, in New York City, United States. He was 25 years old when he physically performed the robot in Lost in Space, spending countless hours inside a heavy metal suit that hid his face, his name, and his presence from the screen's credit roll. After Lost in Space, May continued working steadily, appearing in television and films such as The Time Travelers, and later transitioning into stunt coordination and technical roles. But the shadow of the robot never lifted. Bob May died on January 18, 2009, at the age of 69. His death passed quietly, much like his career had been credited. Dee Hartford, as Verda, Nancy Pie Squared. Born on April 21, 1928, in New York City, United States. Dee Hartford was in her late 30s when she appeared in Lost in Space, portraying the characters Verda and later Nancy Pie Squared, brief but striking roles that reflected the show's increasingly surreal tone. As opportunities thinned, Hartford drifted further from the center of the industry. She continued to act sporadically, but the promise of reinvention never materialized. Dee Hartford died on October 21, 2018, at the age of 90. Time did what space and monsters never could. The cast of Lost in Space didn't just age. They fractured, faded, endured, or vanished in silence, each paying a different price for a future they once helped imagine. Which journey affected you the most? Leave a comment and follow to continue uncovering the untold stories behind television's brightest dreams and darkest realities.